Thank you, thank you. You're too kind. I accept this award with humility and grace. I mean, after all, you did vote me as the best D&D player in the world.
You did it!
Bunch of ungrateful Philistines can't recognize real genius. As we move into the new D&D 2024, I thought I'd give some awards of my own, a sort of best in show, to see off D&D 2014. We'll have still categories, and try to pick 5th edition's best for each category. We won't be considering anything from the new 2024 Player's Handbook. Now remember, these are just my opinions. Just because something isn't labeled, arbitrarily I might add, the best, doesn't mean it isn't a whole lot of fun. Our first category is the best adventure. Now, if you've seen our previous video on the 5 best adventure books, then you know the starter kit's Lost Mine of Phandelver won the day. But that's not what we'll be talking about today. Though I absolutely love this adventure, and it is my favorite, this is a bit too long to be the best single adventure. It goes from levels 1 to 5, and that can take quite a while, even for such a well thought out adventure. We're also not so restricted by adventure books, so we can pick from any adventure we want, and I think we'll choose something you might least expect and perhaps have never heard of. Enter the Lost Tomb of Kime. You may struggle to remember where this even comes from. It appears in the adventure Out of the Abyss. So yeah, it's an adventure inside another adventure. In Out of the Abyss, you, your party, and some fellow inmates journey through the Underdark trying to desperately find a way to the surface, a way out. While being chased by slaver dark elves and later demons, you'll run into some side quests along the way, and that's where this adventure comes in. Now, Out of the Abyss is a fine adventure. I like it, but it's not going to win any awards. But the Underdark encounters / side quests are all pretty good, and this particular one is very good. The tomb is of Netherese origin, basically ancient wizards that went extinct, that has sunk deep beneath the ground and lies in the Underdark. Now, you'll hear a beckoning voice calling to you, asking you to find it. Inside the tomb, you'll find undead, of course, traps and treasure, really good treasure. And in fact, it was the treasure itself that was calling to you, not the undead as you might first suspect. In fact, the treasure may even hold your salvation to escaping the deadly tomb. This adventure is quite short, one of the things I like most about it. And unlike other adventures that claim to only take 1 session, but usually take more like 2 or 3, even 4, the Lost Tomb of Kime can be completed in 1 session. And that is because it is what is known as a 5-room dungeon. 5-room dungeons are exactly what they sound like, a dungeon, building, etc., that only has 5-ish rooms for the players to explore and complete. It's just the perfect size. Easy to navigate for the DM and the players, easy to set up on a battle mat if that's being used. There's no constant questions for the players of if they've been to this room or not, yada yada. Easy for the DM to keep everything straight from the loot and the monsters. It's just perfect. Our next award goes to the best spell. Now you may think we'll choose something higher level and impressive, like Wish, which can accomplish so much, or maybe Meteor Sword with its sheer destructive power. But no, none of those spells make the cut in my eyes, as cool as they are. Too high level, too inaccessible. They're 9th level spells, they're supposed to be awesome. We need to look to something everyone can benefit from, at any level. This leads us to Bind Familiar. This 1st level conjuration ritual spell is normally only available to wizards and some warlocks, but there are other ways to get access to it. Magic Initiate or the Ritual Caster feat to name just a few. We all know this spell very well. It takes an hour to cast, takes plus 10 minutes if you wanted to cast it as a ritual, costs 10 gold and incense. You get a little pet that will follow you around, such as a cat, frog, spider, or my favorite, the owl, and you aren't stuck with this form. Just cast a spell again, change it into whatever you need. Maybe you need to explore underwater ruins, so change your owl into an octopus. These creatures can't fight for you, but you can see what they see, which will make some great scouts and infiltrators. They can also take other actions like the help action, allowing them to give advantage on most things, but in particular, advantage on attacks. And you can protect your little buddy by hiding them away in a little extra dimensional pocket for safekeeping. This is one of those spells where the more creative you are, the cooler it gets. Even better, if you're a warlock who takes the pack of the chain, you get even more diverse options like closets, imps, and sprites. Familiars are cool. Familiars that turn invisible, cooler. Now we move on to the next category, best feat. This is a tricky one. What might make one feat great for one character might be useless to another. Great Weapon Master is amazing for a great axe-wielding barbarian, but not so much for a limp-armed wizard. So, how do we judge this? What feats would any character, regardless of the design, like to have? We're talking broadly applicable. And powerful, of course. Alert was a strong contender, and a bit of a dark horse, but I think the award has to go to Lucky. Lucky can be taken by anyone. It has no prerequisites. You get 3 luck points to spend, and they come back on a long rest. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, you can spend a luck point after the die is rolled, but before the result is revealed. You roll an additional d20 and pick the one you want. Now, this is an important distinction, as it's not rolling with advantage. So technically, you can do this even if you are rolling with advantage. You can also do the same thing if attacks targets you, just choosing between your roll and the enemy's. Speaking of advantage, there's an interesting little loophole here. If you make one of those rolls with disadvantage, rules as written, you can spend a luck point to add a d20 to it, and then you get to choose which of those rolls you use. Essentially means you turn disadvantage into super advantage, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, is super powerful, though some DMs put the lid on that exploit pretty quick. I can't imagine a character that doesn't want this feat in their repertoire. It's a great resource for anyone and can be pretty good protection against incoming attacks or nasty saving throw spells. Next, we come to the best race, or species as it will now be known. Now, this will be tricky and take a lot of exhaustive examinations, and it's just custom lineage. It's always custom lineage. How could it be anything else? We're going to keep this one short. Custom lineage is a way for a character to sort of create their own little hodgepodge race. You want to be a cat person and aren't crazy about the tabaxi? Custom lineage. You want to be part dwarf, part elf, part human? Custom lineage. So on, so forth. You can be medium or small, your choice. 30-foot movement speed. You get a +2 to 1 ability score of your choice. You can choose between 60-foot dark vision or a skill of your choice. You get common language and 1 more language determined between yourself and the DM. And finally, a feat. It's incredibly versatile. Similar to the Variant Human, but unlike the Variant Human, you can get dark vision, one of the human's weaknesses. And because of that +2 to the ability score, if you take the appropriate half feat, is the only way in the game to get start with an 18 if you're using point buy or a similar function. Obviously, you can still roll your stats high enough, but that's unlikely. This option is obviously the most coveted by min-maxers of the world, which is not to say there aren't other good options for min-maxing, but this one's probably the most common. But the custom lineage has other uses. Maybe you want to have a character with an unusual lineage, and maybe you don't think the lineage is really that important to them and want to kind of keep it neutral. Either way, a custom lineage can serve both needs. Now on to our next category, best in backgrounds. Backgrounds are seen as something of an afterthought. I think that's a shame because they tell an important part of the character's story, what they were before they were an adventurer. As the span of 5th edition trundled on, backgrounds themselves seem to become more powerful in comparison to their core brethren. They tended to be setting specific. Usually you started with an expanded spell list, such as with the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, with some of the later ones including feats, such as with Strixhaven. And then we come to the winner, and I think the newest background from the Book of Many Things, the Rewarded and the Ruined. Yes, we have a tie. As these two backgrounds are equally awesome and are sort of mirror reflections of each other. Both of these backgrounds have the basis of you, the adventurer, being either incredibly blessed or incredibly doomed, and your life being shaped by those events. The Rewarded background gives proficiency with insight and persuasion, a language of your choice and gaming set, and some basic equipment and gold, as usual. But it's their ability Fortune's favor that we really want. We get access to one of 3 feats, our choice. Lucky, which won its own category, Magic Initiate, which gives 2 cantrips and a first level spell, and Skill, which gives proficiency with 3 skills for those skill monkeys out there. All of these options are great. You see, the rewarded or thought to have had some positive contact with a deck of many things or be blessed by a deity or some other good karma. Which cannot be said for the other winner, the Ruined. They have had something terrible happen to them. Maybe they drew a destructive card from the deck of many things, had their first adventuring party wiped by a monster, or was born with an ill omen. But this tragedy is their strength, and they've learned to survive with it. And if I'm being honest, I find this background a bit more interesting, if not more powerful than its sister. We get the skills Stealth and Survival, a really good duo, 1 language and gaming set, along with some basic equipment. We get the feature Still Standing. Just like the rewarded, we get access to 1 of 3 feats. Alert, which gives bonuses to initiative and surprise, almost beat out Lucky for its top spot. Skill, just like rewarded, gave extra skills, and Tough, which gives extra hit points. These are all feats that are very widely applicable. Extra skills might not be all that necessary for some characters, but you wouldn't exactly mind having them, would you? Everyone wants extra hit points, and boosting initiative and helping counteract surprise could be the difference between victory and defeat. Moving on to our final category, the best class and subclass. We're going to take these 2 together, as they'll come from the same place. I don't know if you remember the Bard of old. I'm talking 4th or more probably likely 3.5 edition. It wasn't a bad class, very jack of all trades, which is ironic since the 5th edition of Bard actually has an ability called that. It could fill a lot of roles, but the sad truth was they were second at everything and best at nothing. And this could make them kind of difficult to play, or to play well at least. You could play them well if you were good at the game and had a really solid understanding of its rules, but it was not for beginners. Social skills just weren't as useful in 3rd edition, and were downright gone from 4th. But then 5th edition came along and changed things. 5e encourages social encounters and the use of social skills, abilities, and spells. Part of that is the game itself, but some of it's just change in player culture over the years. I'm not going to endeavor to explain TTRPG psychology, but we'll just leave it at that. Bards became full casters whose magic was based on their charisma, which dovetailed nicely with their social skills that they are encouraged to use. They have a good amount of skills that can be chosen from the entire list of skills, which not even the rogue can boast of. Can wear some armor, use a few more than just simple weapons, prevalence of finesse weapons and short bows and crossbows. I mean, they can actually put up a pretty decent fight with weaponry. But their real role is as a support character with their signature bardic inspiration, allowing you to give dice to your fellow players to buff them. And that's where the real fun is. That, along with their versatile magic that could heal as well as bend others to their will, made them indispensable to an adventuring party. Give them a background that provided these tools, and the rogue was pretty much out of a job. This versatility would be increased even more with our best subclass, the College of Lore. Despite all the new Bard subclasses that came out, and some of them are really strong, in fact, the College of Eloquence made the top of the list for Bard subclasses. But when looking at subclasses as a whole, I think the Lord Bard just eats it out. 3 extra skills can turn the character into a bit of a skill monkey, making them indispensable off the battlefield. And then they have additional ways to use their bardic inspiration, cutting words. This allows them to debuff enemy attack rolls, ability checks, and damage rolls after seeing the roll, but before the result. And then there is the enhancement to their magical prowess, magical secrets. All bards get this, but the lore bard gets additional secrets 4 levels earlier than anyone else. These secrets take the form of 2 spells that can come from any class in the game. You want paladin smite spells? You got it. You want a counterspell and fireball like a wizard? You got it. You want healing and spiritual weapon like a cleric? No need to pray, because you got it. The College of Lore Bard takes an already versatile and powerful skill monkey caster and amps up both aspects. The first game of 5th edition I played had one of these in it, and my first thought was, my God, they made the Bard awesome now. So those are the awards for the 2014 edition of D&D 5e. I know we didn't cover every category possible. What would you choose for the best skill, or maybe the best weapon? Tell me in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, smash that like button, check out our other videos over here, and I'll see you in the next edition of D&D.